Hey, how is it going, hunters? LVnative and CJ here, back at it with another video for you. Today, we are going to be going over my survival guide for Monster Hunter World. This is awkward. I told you, wait until I call you. You're too early, you're always messing this up. Get back in the house. Now, Monster Hunter World has a lot of things that you need to keep track of as a hunter, and if you're new to the series, it can be quite overwhelming sometimes, as the game throws a lot at you and sometimes doesn't do a fantastic job of explaining everything to you, and there can be a very steep learning curve. That's where this Hunter Survival Guide comes into play. Now, this guide is going to be targeted more at the novice players who are just learning the ropes and probably just playing Monster Hunter for the very first time. However, I do welcome all veterans of the series who've been playing the Monster Hunter games for years, or who are just really versed in Monster Hunter World, to chime in the comments below and offer any advice and criticism that you can help to make this guide even better, alright? So let's get into it. So one of the very first decisions that you are going to have to make when you first start playing Monster Hunter World is to choose your weapon.
You must choose, but choose wisely.
All joking aside, there is no wrong choice here, everyone. One thing to keep in mind is that all of the 14 different weapons you can use in Monster Hunter World are very equally balanced, and all of them are viable options, providing you get good with using those weapons. Now, that being said, there are some weapons that do gravitate more towards newer players, as they don't have quite as high of a ceiling cap for you to be able to learn the weapon effectively. One of those is going to be something like the dual blades. It's a very fast attacking, makes you very agile. You can get in, get out, do a lot of damage, and for that reason, it is a very good weapon to learn the ropes while playing Monster Hunter, and it was the one that I started out with as well. Others that are great options if you want to stay from a distance, use the bow. If you guys are familiar with Horizon Zero Dawn or other games similar to that, you're going to feel right at home with the bow. Plus, you can stay from a good medium to long range away and observe your monster's movements, learn their patterns, so you can just be overall better to face that monster regardless of whatever weapon you're using. Maybe you're someone who just likes to get right up in the monster's face and knock them out and put little stars above their head so you and your team can just decimate them. Then pick the hammer. There's nothing better at knocking people out than that. My point is every weapon is viable, every weapon is deadly, you just got to learn how to use it. So pick one, stick with it for quite a while, and learn to use it effectively. One great way to do that is to go in the training area in your room. So in the room, go to your housekeeper and talk to them, and when you have the proper weapon that you want equipped, what you want to do is go to the training area. From there, you can get all the practice you want and learn a lot of the basics with your weapon. Now, one thing that's nice is when you are in the training area, you can, use any weapon. It's going to show you damage numbers, it's going to show you some basic combos, which is really nice, and it's going to help you get your foot going in the right direction, so you don't just jump out onto a hunt blind and not know how to use your weapon. Here you can practice all manners of your weapon, including, the big slide moves and stuff like that. So it's a fun way for you to learn the basics of your weapon. Now, you can see down here on the bottom left that they show you a couple of basic combos, and that's a great way to get started. But if you want a little bit more, you can just go over here into your options, go to your Hunter's Notes, and scroll down to Weapon Controls. From here, you're going to get a lot more than just those basic things, and it's also going to give you a couple hints here, and it is a great way for you to see and learn your weapon a little bit more in depth than what they give you with just the couple of basic combos when you're in the training area. But find a weapon that you like the feel of, practice with it a little bit in the training area. If it feels good for you, go ahead and try it out on a few hunts, rinse and repeat. But like I said, I do recommend sticking with one particular weapon, maybe one or two, just to learn the ropes. One of the worst things that you can do is overwhelm yourself is trying, to go through all your missions and all your hunts using different weapons without practicing them first. It's just going to lead to a lot of frustration. I would recommend at least early on in the game, stick with one, maybe two weapons, learn them, get comfortable with them, and then from there, feel free to branch out once you get to the high rank and stuff like that if you want to start experimenting with other weapons. Now, when you are using your weapon, unless you're using one of the ranged weapons, you are going to have to worry about the sharpness of your weapon. how, high that sharpness bar is going to play a great role in the damage that you deal to the monster. Let the sharpness get too low, and it's going to be like you're smacking them with a wiffle ball bat or a couple of pixie sticks. It ain't going to do anything. In fact, a lot of them are just going to bounce right off. Now, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, that little blue gauge right there that you see depleting as I'm attacking this, little stump, and you're going to see it change color. It's at blue sharpness right now. When you guys first start out, you're going to be in green like it just changed to. Point is the higher it is, the more damage you're going to do. And some weapons, like the dual blades here, do eat through your sharpness rather quickly. So one thing that you have to keep in mind is you want to continually keep an eye on that gauge while you're out on your hunts, and then just make sure you sharpen up by using that whetstone regularly to keep your damage output at an optimal level. Now, once you've done a couple of missions and gone on a couple hunts, you're going to start realizing that sometimes it can be quite monotonous at the end of every mission to continually micromanage and go through your inventory. That's where customized loadouts come in, and they will save you a ton of headache and frustration. So rather than having to go through and manually, take things out and put things back in, that you don't want to, always have with you, that can take a long time. What you want to do, guys, is get a loadout. So get the items that you're going to want on every hunt. It's going to be a good idea to bring a couple of potions, a couple things to deal with, poison, and a little bit of meat's never a bad idea. Anyway, find out what items that you want to always bring with you and create a custom loadout. So we're going to do that really quickly here. Let's see, I do not need the Dragon Ball Berry. We are going to just clean this up a little bit, but basically once you find what you want to go with, so we're going to say, yeah, that looks pretty good right there. What you want to do is while you're in this inventory screen is you are going to actually hit your option button right here, and it's going to bring up your custom loadouts. So say I wanted to make a loadout with this inventory right here, I would select a loadout, hit the triangle button, and it's going to say save item loadout to this slot. So what this will do is make basically a copy of what you currently have right now in your item pouch and going to change it into a loadout. Now, in the future, anytime you want to use that exact loadout, you don't have to go through your items and everything. Just go here, select which loadout you want to use. It's as easy as that. And you can switch between multiple loadouts, and they give you a very large selection. So absolutely, if you really want to micromanage it and you have a specific loadout when you're fighting just doing gathering, missions, you might not want the same items as if you're going in to fight an Elder Dragon. That's all I'm saying. So you can make customized loadouts for your items on every single scenario if you so choose. And if you do, it's going to save you a lot of time and headache in the future. While we're talking about items, let's go ahead and talk about the wheel. So go ahead, hit your options button, and we are going to go to customize a radial menu. So from here, you basically, if you look on the bottom, you see where it says shortcut 1 that's kind of glowing up a little bit, and you got shortcut 2, your ammo, and your coatings and communications. These are all basically hot buttons that you can kind of, select on the fly without having to rotate through your item wheel all the time. So in this case, when I'm using, we'll say shortcut 2, is my whetstone is going to be the very, very top, thing there. So all I have to do is hit the L1 button to bring up my radial menu, tap R up, and then, release it. It'll come back down and it will automatically start sharpening your weapon. This can be a little tricky, and it's sometimes very easy to accidentally, in the heat of battle, use the wrong item. One way you can kind of help minimize that is to go into your options, and we're going to change the control layout for that particular one. So go down here where it says radial menu settings and go from type 1 and consider changing it to type 2. What that will do is lock the wheel in place when you bring it up so you can freely still run around. Make sure you select which one you want, and then you press the R3 button, I think. Yeah, and then you just press a button to activate it instead of letting it do it automatically when your analog stick, comes back into its normal position. I happen to think it's much easier. Once you get used to using your type 2 on the wheel, it is going to make using the wrong item accidentally a thing of the past. Another aspect that we can customize, everyone, is the actual item wheel itself. So, sometimes for whatever reason they get in a really weird order and you have it, and again, in the heat of battle, you have a hard time finding the exact item or skill that you want to use, and you're sitting there running while searching through there because the items are on a bad order. Go ahead and fix that yourself. What you want to do is go ahead and hit your options menu, go to your item pouch. While you're in item pouch, go ahead and hit triangle, and it will bring you to your sort items. So now maybe you do not want, for whatever reason, you don't want your trank bombs right next to your shock traps. Well, You just pick it up, move it over to whatever slot you would like, and you can reorder this exactly as you want, and it makes it a lot easier. And this will be saved when you save your item loadouts. So get your every menu exactly the way you want it. Get this menu how you want it, your radial menu how you want it, get everything like that, and then save that item loadout, and never again have to worry having about continually reorder this wheel all the time, because it can be a pain in the butt if you don't do that, and it's something that I wish I knew when I first started playing the game. Here's something that a lot of new hunters neglect to do: your bounties. As soon as you open them up in the story mode, you want to visit your resource center after you get back from every hunt and make sure you're topped off on all 6 bounties. Like here, I just completed one of my bounties, and what I'm going to do is register them and find one that I want to do. Yeah, this one looks good. And we are going to do that. Now, the reason why you do that is because these bounties, if you look down at the rewards, you're not only going to get a lot of research points, but you're also going to start getting armor spheres. Now, armor spheres are what you're going to need to upgrade all of your armor sets in Monster Hunter World, and there are a ton. If you are a big collector and you just want to have everything, there are a ton of upgrades that you're going to have to do, and you're going to need a lot of these armor spheres. The higher you progress through the game, the more quality, or I should say the better quality armor spheres you're going to get. But regardless, whether they're the lower quality, the higher quality, you need them to upgrade your armor, and this is how you want to go about getting them. So always make sure that you have all 6 bounties registered, and a good way to do that is right after you get back from a hunt. Just make that your first stop. It's what I always do. I'm serious, guys. For me, it's the second thing I do from every hunt. I immediately come in, make a left, and manage my items. Once I have those sorted, I go right over here to the resource center and check up on my bounties. Make sure you get in the habit of doing this, and that way you'll be getting the most out of every hunt. Another thing to keep in mind, hunters, is don't neglect your Palco. My buddy CJ here is a huge reason for my success, and you know, your Palco can be the same for you. A lot of people forget about them, but you want to make sure that you don't neglect them. You know, you want to get them decent equipment, and it's something that I didn't do at first. I kind of ignored it, and my Palco kind of stayed the basic, but the Palco is, your Palco is really going to be a good buddy, a good, you know, aid while you're out there, and mine has saved my butt on many occasions. So don't neglect them. Make sure you've got, you know, the type of items and stuff that you want them to have as far as their armor and their weapon. That way they can be a very good contributing factor for you. And plus, once they start getting, you know, their gadgets that they can use, the Choral Orchestra and the Plunder Blade, by far 2 of my favorite things, it just becomes an infinitely valuable resource to help you while you're out on your hunts. So do not forget about your Palco. Make sure they're decked out and prepared for the hunt as well. All right, now you're almost ready to go off and slay that nasty angina that's been giving you problems, but before you do, make sure you don't go on an empty stomach. You want to make sure you eat meals specifically on, you know, missions and hunts that are a little bit more difficult, as it will give you a big boost in your performance and your stats. So you can either, you know, pay with money or pay with your points, whichever one you happen to have a lot of excess of. I've got a little extra cash right now, so I'm going to pay with money. Now, especially starting off, the Chef's Choice platter might not be a bad way to go, because there is actually a lot of intricacies in, you know, doing custom platters and everything, and we're not going to go into that now. I'm just going to touch on the basics with this. Basically, though, make sure that you eat. And if you see, like if I do the Chef's Choice platter right here, I'm going to get 50 health and 50 stamina, which is the biggest boost that you can get. It's also going to give me an attack up large, which is really cool, because a lot of times this on the Chef's Choice platter, it says attack up small. And one thing that is really beneficial when you're using a Chef's Choice is all the ingredients that they use is going to be fresh ingredients. That's why I have my 50 health, because I get, you know, with every fresh ingredient, you get a boost to your health. So you can see here, the healthy platter only has 3 fresh ingredients, and you can see that by the little glowy sparkly things, you know, on those first 3. That's how you know those are fresh ingredients, so it's going to give you 30 health. Another thing that fresh ingredients help you with is being able to get more of your food skills that you see down at the bottom. Basically, to make a long story short, the more fresh ingredients you use in your recipe, the better activation chance you're going to have for these skills. So if you have all fresh ingredients, you're going to get all of them. So that's why a lot of people will, you know, do something like that and go with the chef's choice platter, just so they make sure they get all of those. Now in this case, I'm going to get the Fan Acrobat, the Sharpshooter, and the Parting Gift, and I know I'm going to get those because all 6 ingredients are used. If we look down at the bottom, the activation chance is at 3 stars, and it is going to give you a really nice boost into, your hunt. You're going to get more stamina, more health. You're going to, have, a couple of extra abilities that you wouldn't have had if you didn't eat, and it's just really an easy choice. There really is no choice. Make sure you guys are eating and keeping that belly full to make sure you and your Palico are prepared properly for the hunt. Alright guys, so you are out in the world. One thing you want to make sure you are doing is picking up every little thing that your scout flies highlight, and I mean everything. Nothing is going to go to waste, and you can make use of anything. But if you just, make a beeline for your targets and don't do anything else, you're going to be in for, a rude awakening, because very, very soon you're going to find that you're running very short on materials. So as you're running around, doing your expeditions, or you're doing your hunts or quests or anything like that, anything that your scout flies highlight that you might have missed, make sure you go and collect it. And this is just going to be a habit you should be in while you're playing, because if you don't, you're going to find that you start running really low on resources, especially when you start getting later in the game. So basically, kleptomaniacs, hoarders, whatever you want to call yourselves, you are all welcome, and make sure you are picking up every little thing that you come across so you never have a problem with your inventory in the future. Now, one thing to keep in mind, guys, it is always, or I should say almost always, better to capture rather than kill. So if you weaken them enough to where they, start running away and limping, or in this case, we've weakened him enough he went and took a little nap, we're just going to go ahead and capture him. So I'm going to drop 2 trank bombs on him. 1, 2... Put the shock trap or a pitfall trap down and go ahead and capture your prey. Now, you're going to have to weaken them before you do that, but like I said, you are going to get much more rewards at the end. So all the experienced hunters are going to be out there not probably trying to slay everything, but they want to capture stuff, because that is going to be what's, overall just going to give you better rewards. And, the better rewards, the more items you're getting at the end of your hunts, the less of a grind it's going to be to get that particular armor set or weapon you're looking for. So it's all good things. So definitely, guys, when given the opportunity, make sure you take a couple of traps with you on your hunts and try to capture them rather than kill. You'll thank me later, as you're going to get much better rewards. Another thing, when you do get your rewards, you do not have to just keep hitting these one by one. That takes forever. Hold down that X button and it just cycles through all of them and puts them into your inventory. Bingo, bango, bongo. Very, very easy to do. When you get those longer missions where you have a whole bunch of rewards at the end, it can be real monotonous, just one at a time hitting your button. So just hold that button down and it'll collect them all very quickly for you. Ah yes, and one more thing, guys. Remember to save early and often. Monster Hunter World does have an autosave feature, but it does not work when you exit a multiplayer. What I mean by that is when you do when you first start a game and you join a multiplayer session, if you go through and say you play for several hours, who knows, maybe you crafted a few cool pieces of armor, maybe even a new weapon that you wanted. If you do not actually go through and save before you leave that session, you will not keep any of that gear. Let me repeat that. You need to save before leaving that multiplayer session, or any gear that you've created or crafted will not, be there. Now, you will not lose your materials, so you could always go back and recraft it, but it's just a pain in the butt, especially if in that session you crafted a lot of things. You don't want to have to go back and do that again. Make sure you remember to save before you're leaving your multiplayer sessions so you don't lose any of that cool gear. Alright, hunters, well that's about going to wrap this survival guide up. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful and or useful. If you did, a like would be greatly appreciated, as it really does help this channel out. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on, as we will be doing many more of this type of videos in the future, not only for Monster Hunter World, but for other games as well. So stay tuned, make sure you hit that subscribe, turn your notification bell on, and you will not miss a thing. So in the comments section below, I want to know if these really did help you guys out. Like I said, these are just some of the basic tips I wish I knew before I jumped, head first into the deep end, and I just think it's going to make the overall experience for you more enjoyable and less frustrating, and that's really the true reason for me doing this guide. Now, you veteran hunters out there, if you stuck around to the end, first of all, thank you. I'm glad you found it entertaining enough to stay all the way to the end. Now, in the comments below, help us out. What have I forgotten that you can think, especially to give newer players tips on? because there's a bunch out there and I don't have enough time to cover all of them. So in the comments below, you veteran hunters out there, feel free to help out some of these newer guys so they can kind of get up on level and start slaying those tempered elder dragons with the rest of us, alright? But as always, hunters, this is LVnative and CJ. You guys are awesome, and I will see you in the next one.